busy being afraid. I was busy being consumed with who I thought I needed to be. And I wasn't interested at all. So I do remember them saying, don't make any big changes in your first year of sobriety. So what I did was I moved from Chicago back to the Bay Area, met a girl my second night here. I went on a date with this girl my second night here. We got engaged 3 weeks later. What's so funny? Is that unusual? We got married 5 months after that, and we married 5 months after that because I told her I can't get married with my first year of sobriety. So my anniversary is in February. And then to top off this brilliant plan of mine, we got pregnant on our honeymoon. So our 1 year wedding anniversary, I'm pushing a newborn down the street. Just insane, crazy, miserable. How do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? I got to run away from this. Well, I married this woman that just was maniacally committed. She wouldn't give up. And I tried to make her give up. I'm causing all kinds of problems. Drama, storming out of the house with my clothes. Coming back a half an hour later because I had nowhere else to go. The walk of shame with your clothes, over your shoulder. And we started going to marriage counseling actually before my daughter was born. My oldest daughter is named after our marriage counselor. Yeah, I'm a good planner. And, she kept saying, you got to go to AA. And I kept saying, whatever. I know what I'm doing. And again, alcoholism, I'm saying I know what I'm doing. And inside, I know I don't know anything about what I'm doing. Nothing. I don't have a clue. I'm a new husband. I'm a new father. I'm trying to reestablish my career out in the same company, but out here. And I'm scared to death. I can't stand me. But I'm pushing back on this counselor that I know better. I finally got tricked into going to an AA meeting because the guy in my office had a drinking problem. My boss said, hey, you're an AA, right? I go, yeah. Take him to a meeting. So I found a meeting in Pleasanton. They had a fellowship there. Wow. So I took him to a meeting. And Chuck didn't stay. I did. Because I went to one meeting and I felt a little bit better. This is the point in the story where you say you jumped in with both feet, got a sponsor, started working the steps. I didn't do that. I have this ego that works against me at every juncture in my life. It's my enemy. It is where my alcoholism flourishes. I went to one meeting a week on Saturday because it was in a place that served breakfast. 2 birds, 1 stone. And I met a woman there, Mary M., whom some of you probably know, who I credit with saving my life. She would sit outside after the meeting and just talk to me about AA. It's like water against a rock, gradually wearing me down. And she hooked me up with a sponsor, Patrick O., who some of you probably know, who became a brother to me. At this point, you think, I'm jumping in with both feet. Not really. It took a while. I'm a good example of a bad example. I fought Alcoholics Anonymous for a long time. Then what happened was the intoxicating effect of AA. People started to love me, tolerate me, invite me places. The social part of AA became, it was amazing. For a kid that never felt like he belonged, suddenly I felt like I was belonging, and it was magical. So I set out to be really popular in Alcoholics Anonymous. I did. I wanted to be seen as a good member. I did at some point in the early stages of my alcoholism, or in my AA career, acknowledge I'm an alcoholic. I did. I identified. I heard my story. I heard people talk about feelings that I'd experienced my whole life. I said I'm an alcoholic. So once I accept that diagnosis, you know what? It's never, ever wavered. I knew I was an alcoholic. I accepted the diagnosis as my disease, but I've often fought the treatment of that disease because I'm pretty smart. I know what's best for me. I was secretary meetings. I started sponsoring guys. But it was built on this illusion I could do this all myself. The ingredient that was missing in my recovery was God. The ingredient that was missing in my recovery was that spiritual basis that in the book says, I have a spiritual malady requiring a spiritual solution. And I didn't read that. I didn't pay attention to that. If God was in the big book, not my copy. If spirituality was my big book, not my copy. I did what was convenient. I did what made me feel good. I did what I needed to do to be liked. The fellowship became my intoxicant. You became my intoxicant. I replaced booze with you. Was my family benefiting from my sobriety? No. So I diagnosed my daughter, Katie, age 8, as an alcoholic. Because I can tell. The behavior, I could tell. Because I'm pretty smart. It's hard being brilliant. I don't know if you guys know this. I see things that people don't, that can't. I have an ability to see, I can see through walls. And my daughter was behaving badly. So, it made me afraid, really afraid. I mean, I love my kids. Not a psychopath. I mean, I didn't really want them, but I loved them. My wife is, I will tell you today, I don't know why she stayed with me. I didn't deserve her commitment, quite honestly. I had a travel job. I was gone a lot. And I think when I left the house, they were happy. When I came back, they held their breath because they didn't know who was coming back. They had no idea. The volatility. The way alcoholism manifests itself with me is I become volatile. And this temper. If things aren't the way they're supposed to be. If I came in, and the shoes were on the floor, I'd lose my mind. I made home unsafe for my family. In sobriety. Years with Katie, my older daughter. My older daughter she was a people pleaser, rule follower. She was a good one. Then there was Katie. When Katie, she barely graduated high school. I mean, barely. My wife had to talk a teacher into giving her a D to get her past, and she grew up the bad kid. I authored that. I did. I didn't set out to do that, but that's what I did. So when she graduated, she said, see you later. She moved to San Francisco and defiled herself. I don't know about a detail on it, and I don't want to know, but I know it wasn't good. I'm flying around the country. I'm successful in business. My oldest daughter has gone to school in Texas because it's nowhere near me. Get away from the craziness that I was causing. I'm now 20 years sober. There's no God. There's no thought of God. There's no thought of humility. There's no surrender. But I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I go to meetings. I got a sponsor. I'm doing the deal. I'm doing the deal that I designed. I'm doing the deal my way. I'm doing the deal what's convenient and what feels good. I'm attending the social club religiously. For a guy who was an outsider his whole childhood, it was enough. It was enough. I wasn't drinking. Get off my case. I'm sober. That should be enough. My wife said to me at some point, I should have taken the kids. Protect them from you. That leaves a mark. So my wife sits me down and she goes, you have no relationship with your youngest daughter. You're gone all the time. What are you doing? What are your priorities? So I thought about it, and I didn't respond. I go to a meeting in Danville, unscripted, on Monday nights. And my good friend Raymond, who some of you know, was speaking. And those Raymond know, he's a big God guy. Big God guy. And he's doing his pitch. I remember at one point I sit back in my chair and I think, I haven't had God in any aspect of my life, ever. It hit me. I got God smacked in this meeting. We become teachable when we're teachable, right? I know that for sure. I know that's true about me. I step back and I go, what have I been doing? All the talking from my wife, sponsor, nothing worked. Raymond got through to me when I was willing to listen. I was so beaten down. I'd become a cancer in my own family. And you know when it'll change? When I have no other options. When all my escape routes are cut off, then I'll consider it. So I came home and I retired. At 55, I quit my job. I changed sponsors. I changed the meetings I went to. And I started my program all over at 20 years of sobriety. And I picked a sponsor, not because he's cool, because he is not. Not because he has money, because he doesn't. Because he's a God guy. He's got a spiritual element to his program that I find super attractive. He's not a perfect guy. He suffers from human frailties like the rest of us. We don't get struck perfect. But he's got what I want. And I started over. What I say is I built my program over from the God up. From the God up. I had to surrender. That's something I didn't know how to do. I didn't surrender, I ran. That was what I did. I never surrendered, I just ran. And I set about trying to rebuild my relationship with my family. And my daughter, Katie, it was like, trying to corral a feral cat, right? It was hard. We had to sort of make small movements towards each other. And she came back home, ultimately, and to say she wanted to go to college. And she finally started treating, she has ADD, and she started treating that. What I will tell you is that she went to Ohlone, became engineering student of the year at Ohlone. Her picture was on bus stops advertising the school. She transferred to UC Irvine, one of the toughest engineering schools in the country, and finished a mechanical engineering degree at UC Irvine. Amazing. This is a kid who I envisioned living in a trailer up in the gold country, cooking mess with some dude in a dirty wife beater. And I knew it was going to happen. I was convinced of it. You know, I have no business speaking tomorrow. None whatsoever. It's an unfriendly neighborhood. Yet my daughter, Sarah, just had her 4th child. She's got 3 boys and a little girl. She named her oldest child Jack. God is good. You know, I tell the story because it's important to know. Read the book carefully. Read every word. Because you can't do this without surrender. You can't do this without a higher power. I have a spiritual malady that requires a spiritual solution. I mean, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. You know, I have a family life today that I can't describe. I was telling Vivian that I was in Vegas over the weekend. I took my wife to see the Wizard of Oz at the Sphere. Was that my first choice? No. Am I a Wizard of Oz fan? No. Were there a lot of Wizard of Oz fans there? Oh, yeah. I saw like 12 Dorothys. Not my crowd. I want to do that for her. That is not who I was for many years of my sobriety. I think about how selfish I behaved in sobriety. 10 years, 15 years, still consumed with me. And you guys thought I was a great member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, maybe not you guys. But, you know what? I'm a shapeshifter. I'm an alcoholic. I'll be who I need to be. You know, the thing about alcoholism is it can be destroying your life and you don't know it. Dysfunction starts to be normal. That's just my lot in life. You know what I do better than anything else? I put one foot in front of the other and I just keep moving forward. I mean, humiliation, I'll get through it. Fear, I'll get through it. I just keep moving forward. I'll survive. I won't be happy. I won't be helpful. I won't be whole, but I'll survive. That's alcoholism, how it affects me. And the thing is, I can't keep it to myself. I cause havoc. I cause heartbreak. I cause hurt. And the people that get it are the ones closest to me. So I was doing a little pitch at a men's retreat down at Asilomar, and they asked me to speak on AA in the family. So I'm talking about it, and I said, you know, here's my biggest fear with my family. It's Christmas, and the families gather around the big dining room table. My daughters, their husbands, grandkids, my wife's there. It's a great meal. And the subject inevitably turns to their childhood. And they start talking about how dad was. And they'll be laughing. And I'll pretend to laugh. But I'll be dying inside. How do I live with that? Because I live my life. I was talking about this earlier with some of the guys up in the back row. My sponsees that sit in the back row, one day at a time. I can't escape my past, but I'm not going to drag it through my day to day. I am acutely aware, passionately aware that I have a living amends that I owe to my family. And I'll tell you what, I try and be the best husband I can be every single day. I try the best dad I can be every single day. I never forget that. I am deeply involved. I went back to work a couple of years after I retired. I worked again. I've always had travel jobs. I retired about a year ago. And my job now is grandfather. I pick the boys up from school. When I get permission from their incredibly rigid mother, I get taken to the donut store for a donut. McDonald's is off the menu right now. She doesn't like that. But I just try and be helpful. I try and be present. I will tell you that in my world, happiness is built from uncomfortable and inconvenient action. Because I'm not cured. Every day I get up and I try to surrender. My spiritual practice is pretty simple because I have to keep it simple, otherwise I will not do it. I don't say the 3rd-step prayer, 7th-step prayer. I hear people talk about that and I think, God, good for you. I do that for 3 days and I miss a day, go back to it for 3 days, miss 2 days, and I'm pretty soon I'm not doing it at all. But here's what it is. I get up in the morning, I just think about God and I just ask, guide me today. It's your day. It's your day. Help me to be the man that you want me to be. And then I get out and try and act like it. When somebody sneezes, I say a prayer. When I hear a siren, Miss Minietti taught me this at Our Lady of Lourdes in Oakland in 2nd grade. Pray for the people who the siren's for. I've turned that into and I've been doing it my whole life, but now I mean it. You'd be amazed if you think about how often people sneeze, often hear a siren. And that's meant to sort of propel my God consciousness, which is really important to me. I don't want to stray too far from God because I'll wander in a neighborhood that isn't good. At night, I just review my day. I don't sit down. Again, sign up to do written 10 steps and good for you. I won't do it. But I do think about my day. And there's 2 elements of my 10 steps that I do. Where could have been better, but I also celebrate where I did the right thing. What did I do well? Was I helpful? How did my wife think about that? I work really hard at that. My life is so different than I would have designed. I'm an alcoholic, so I don't forecast success. I don't forecast happiness. I forecast failure. There's nothing good out there if I sit down and think about it. I'm not a cockeyed optimist. I'm an alcoholic. And if I let myself, I'm a smothering, self-centered, egotistical malcontent. But I don't have to be that today. I treat my disease one day at a time. I don't worry about tomorrow. I don't. Somebody told me this. We're all plagiarists in Alcoholics Anonymous. And he says, I live where God lives. God isn't in yesterday. God isn't in tomorrow. God lives in today. And that's where you need to be. And that's where I try and stay. I want to be in today. And I want to try and seek and do my God's will. Just today. I can handle that. Give me a 2-week plan, I'm out. Give me a 12-hour plan, I can do that. I can get my mind around that. I was talking a young man who I go to my home group with, and we were talking about spiritual practice. And, for me, I'm a big believer in prayer. I believe in prayer. I don't know that God's on a switchboard going, Jack from Pleasanton on the line. What do you need, Jack? I don't think any of that. But I do know when I pray, it makes me feel better because I'm taking an action in service of somebody else. So I pray. But I tell my guys I work with, when I pray, I need to have some direction. So my prayer in the morning, I direct it someplace. And almost always I direct it to help me experience and act with humility. So here's the thing, I said this earlier and I'll say it again. My alcoholism was born in and resides in my ego. My ego is exaggerated. With an ego as big as mine, it's not just I think I'm great, it's also I think I'm terrible. I'm not just bad, I'm the worst. It exaggerates everything. Alcoholism is a disease of perspective and perception, and I got it bad. I didn't have it today. I didn't have it today. My wife was so happy today. She was grateful today. She was in love today. What else could I want? What else is there? That's not who I came out of the hatch to be. That's not my wiring scheme. That's who you helped me to be. That's how I learned how to be by coming here and finally listening. It's amazing how much you can ignore and be a regular meeting attender. They say meeting makers make it. I was a meeting maker and I wasn't making it. So any of you think A is a big social club? I'm going to tell you, listen to my story. It's more than that. It has to be more than that. And it doesn't work unless you start with surrender. If you have to start with a passion and a dedication to humility. I am so grateful today. I am a passionately grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't see that coming. What a big surprise. You finally got through. For that, I'm grateful. Thank you, guys.